So I believe now that we are live. I can't believe there's so many people that are waiting for this stream. Thank you for coming on and thank you for joining me on the live launch of my very own Kickstarter. I think this is the first Kickstarter that I've ever done. I'm going to try to find where the comments box is. There we go. If you can hear me, just let me know in the comments to see, so I can see. Hello. The four walls. Hello from Hollywood. Hello from Turkey. There's people from all around the world. This is incredible. So let me tell you about what this is about. For me, this has been the last almost year in the making. Hey, Phil, how's it going? It's been a year in the making, and I've had to try to make a load of things happen. So last year I was working on a load of television shows, and I wanted to do this. I had to put it on the back burner. Throughout Blackpool, it was so hard to bite my tongue and not say anything. To not say anything. It was so hard to not say anything. And I've waited and waited and waited, and then it came to February, and I've sunk, when I say I've sunk a load of money into this, I've literally sent a load of money into this, and I got an RV, and I travelled from one coast in America to another. I believe it were the west coast or the east coast, it might be the other way around, but I stopped at psychic hotspots across the way to learn from who are considered the greatest in the world. And what we did is we broke into these secret societies, and we documented the journey as we went along. And I've had this idea for this kit long before I left the last magic company that I was working for, or working with. And there were a lot of things when those last kits came out that I wanted to do differently. I wanted to do very differently to how how I've done this one. And there were things that were said when those last kits were made that I didn't agree with. And that was just because it were a collaborative effort between me and these companies. And I'm not going to go into who said it, but somebody said to me once that if you want to have creative control over this stuff, then you do it yourself. So I thought, okay, and I'm going to do it myself, and here we are. So this is entirely being done my way, and we're going to launch it very soon. So I just want to talk to people in the chat. Let's have a look. So it sounds good. Hello, Michael. Hello, Tim. Gavin, it's nice to see you. Joshua, it's lovely to see you as well. C. White, lovely to see you. And Stuttgart, that's lovely to see you. So we're all in this, aren't we? Look at this. We're from Stuttgart. So there's a few people in that's from Germany, a few people in from Chicago, from Turkey, even people in from Scarborough. Hello, Mary. How are you? It's nice to see you. Toby Riding Hood, Bruce Kahn. Yeah, the Grail poster. So I made this. So it looks like AI, but it's just a load of independent pieces that were put together in Photoshop. And we made this little poster. It wasn't meant to look like us. It was meant to look like one of those 80s VHS posters that never actually looked like the person that were on there. Let's have a look at this. You might want to be okay. I'm going to move a little bit closer to the mic. I've been told that it's I'm going to move it this way. If this disconnects, I'm sorry. I'm going to try my best. That should be better. There we go. So I want to talk to you about the stuff inside the kit. I want to talk to you about the props. I want to talk to you about what it is that you might expect from the kit. I want you to ask me questions about it. So first and foremost, I wanted an array of props that you could bring out in performance and not have them questioned. Now, one of the things that's interesting about whenever you bring out a deck of cards, one of the first things that everybody says is, oh, I've seen this trick, before you've ever got into it. And I've never, ever had that response when it comes to bringing out tarot cards. Now, you might be thinking, well, I don't want to work with tarot cards. They're too big, they're clunky, they're horrible to carry around. Well, I've got you covered. What we designed are these little bad boys. Now, these things are the size of regular poker-sized cards, but these are really beautiful because they're marked, right? And they're marked in a multitude of different ways. And one of the markings on here has never been done before. And we have these little QR codes, I don't know if you can see them, baked into the design. So one of the things I'm most proud of is this. And what that'll enable you to do is let your spectators hold the card, and you say to them, I just want to take a little photograph of you just for a memory or a keepsake. And then, bam, you get your phone out, and the camera will pop up a little box that will tell you the exact card that you're holding, right? Which I think is really interesting because it tells you the card they're holding. But let's say you're worried about giving a reading. You can now hit that little tab. It'll open up a link with that card on it, and it'll give you a crib sheet that allows you to be able to give them an in-depth reading without having to know the cards, right? Which is, for me, amazing. But not only that, what's interesting is you might be thinking, well, what happens if they look at the QR code? If they scan the QR codes on the back of the cards, it leads them to a site where they can buy ungimmicked versions of the same cards, right? That's what makes it epic, because if they notice the QR codes, you don't have to worry about it popping up and saying to them, oh, this is the justice card or whatever. It'll literally load up a website where they can get ungimmicked crystals, ungimmicked tarot cards, ungimmicked everything else, right? Which I loved. And also, when you think about the way that certain effects or tricks, let's say we take 21, which is something that I come up with a while ago, and it was based on an old idea from years and years ago. Sometimes it's very weird to have, 2 packets of cards on a table. The process is, there's also a speed reader system. Yeah, if you don't want to use the card, there's a speed reader system built into the design where you can instantly know the card when it's on the table, they're holding it. And they're beautifully crafted. They're not cheap quality. They're really, really good quality. But yeah, going back to what I was saying about the packets, let's say there's something that's procedural. It's a bit weird to say, oh, I want you to deal down 2 packets of cards. Okay, now you're going to cut some off. But when you think about with tarot cards, by simply saying you're going to deal down 2 packets, one's going to be representing your past, one's going to be representing your present. Obviously, nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. And you get to decide, do you want a reading from your past? Do you want one from your present? And you can do all these effects that were off the table before in mentalism because they felt slightly procedural. And all of a sudden, it's completely justified by the spread or the clock systems that tarot card readers use. And so that allows you to do that. You get these cards, you get duplicate cards in there as well. There's an astro card, which I don't have to hand, which is really interesting because I wanted a system where I wanted to merge an astrological reading where I guess a star sign with a question, a Q&A. And what's, for me, really interesting about that is you literally turn your back. You say to them, I don't want to see. Find your star sign and look at the question next to it. Perfect. Flip it over and have a look at the question on the other side. Put the card away. You don't do anything. Within a second, no fishing, no asking anything. You tell them their star sign, and you also perfectly are able to answer the question with 100% accuracy. And they're no longer having to write things down. There's no anagrams. There's no messing around with having to guess or to fish. It's just beautiful. We'll be able to grab the elements from the set later on. I love the tarot cards, but I'm not entirely sure I need the whole set. Well, Seth, what's interesting about the set? So let me tell you about the set, right? Will you teach any techniques with no gimmick tarot cards as well? You can literally use the tarot cards as actual tarot cards. I go into readings on tarot cards. I go into how to use tarot cards. I go into being able to give a reading with everyday objects. So if somebody pulls an object out and hides it in their hand so you can't see it, not only can you tell them what that object is every single time, you can give them a perfect reading and you've never had to give a reading before. Seth, the reason you might be interested with the other stuff inside the box, and I know I've sort of talked a little bit about what's in there, what I want to do with this set is different to what every one of these companies have done before. So every single one of these companies, they have tier systems. Buy this tier and we'll upgrade this. Buy this tier and we'll upgrade that. We're not doing that. What I'm going to say is the more kits that sell, the better I'll be able to spend time developing those. So for example, one of the ideas that I've got, just to give you a little insight into how this is, I want to put inside one of the crystals a neodymium magnet. Now the reason that's so interesting is because I want to take the pendulum, and the pendulum's got a little bottle that contains iron filings. And what that means is they can hide the crystal in any hand they want, and then they hold the pen. You can hold the pendulum over the top of each hand and it'll start to spin. And it'll look exactly how a pendulum's supposed to look, right, when it's hovering over the top of somebody's hand, because the magnet starts to make it spin. But to be able to do that, I need more time. I need a little bit more process. I have put in there a screwed on witch hand routine that I've never shared before with the crystals. I've shared routines in there that involve the crystals, like Kurasuki and witch hand. But I want more development time, and that's what this Kickstarter is allowing me to do. Is it possible that a blindfold for blindfolded routines would be added? Look at Lance Sinclair's reaction to that, right? That idea of an analog version where you can get the spectator to hold the pendulum and that'll spin, right? The pendulum will make it spin. Here's another thing, right? I'm going to just sort of jump through the comments and I will get back to the blindfold thing. The box, every one of these boxes, I've got them on my shelf. The How to Control Minds box, the How to Read Minds box, the How to Read Minds 2 box. They sit on your shelf, but they do nothing. They do absolutely nothing. So what I've done is I've made a Q&A box from the box itself, and I've had the design printed on the bottom. So the design's printed on the bottom of the box. If you want to put it on a shelf as an ornament, you can. But if you want to use this in close-up and parlour and in other areas, you can use this as an actual Q&A box that switches everybody's billets out. And I share, I don't know how many, I don't know how many different techniques that are not the basic Q&A stuff. Now, I read in comments yesterday and it made me laugh. Somebody said, oh, you know, he's just sharing basic Q&A techniques. No, I'm not. In the set, I promise you this, I share with you a way that you can make one of your spectators completely freely chosen the psychic, and they can do the Q&A. And when they do the Q&A, the answers to their questions are 100% accurate. You can do a principle where everybody stands up, they guess the category of question, they guess the answers, and they've never done it before. So can they open the box, or do you open it? They can lift the lid up off the box, they hand it to you, you walk away with it. Obviously, you're the one that's got to be able to take what you need out of it. But if they wanted, they can lift it up and they'll never feel the secret. It never makes a noise. And the reason it never makes a noise is because it's designed in a very particular way, and the inside of that bit is soft. If you don't want to use the box, that's what the crystal bag's for, right? So the crystal bag holds your props in close up, and it can be used as a card mat if you lay it down. It's got a pocket inside there, and inside that pocket, what you do is you could take stuff and you could swap stuff in and out. You could swap bills in and out. It's a set designed for mentalists and magicians that want to give the air of being able to do psychic stuff. And I'll tell you what, one thing I found, and I promise you this, watch the trailer. Every single person that we performed to, we told them this is a trick, and they're going, no, it's not a trick. We were telling them that it's a trick. So it's designed and inspired by Rider-Waite's, but it's our own hand designed versions of the Rider-Waite's. So the updates have a little bit more of a less traditional and more contemporary design, right? And there's no language restrictions with this stuff at all. There's none, not any language restrictions, which makes it perfect for anybody, no matter where you are in the world. There's no having to fish for stuff. There's no opening for instructions. The props are literally there to do the work for you, which allows you, because I share on the section about creating interesting concepts, to do concepts the likes of no other mentalist has shared before. And if you jumped on the live yesterday, and Lance were on there yesterday, if you jumped on the live yesterday, you'll know that I shared concepts I've never talked about before, and they're so different to what everybody else is doing. And the stuff inside the box allows you to not have to think about what it is you're doing. And I say, look, if you just want to deliver this as put a tarot card down, I'm going to give you a brief reading and tell you what it is. Beautiful. If you want to go into a story, I teach you how to do that. Having never done it, I teach you how to give these readings, having never given readings. If you don't want to give readings, you don't have to, but you're no longer having to guess, right? So look, Bobo, you said I'm a psychological mentalist, but the trailer looks so dope. I kind of want some of this. You can frame this stuff up. Literally, I talk about this on the set. We talked about, you know, what happens if you're a Derren Brown style performer? Well, what's really interesting with people that are doing psychological mentalism is they're constantly investigating other areas of the world to better understand what the psychology is behind it. So I talk about the psychological approaches to this stuff as well, and how you can take this stuff and say, you know what, I want to show you how psychics might convince you this. I want to show you how psychics use these to do this. I want to show you sometimes how, even though we can explain this psychologically, that there's some things that we can't explain. Do you know what I mean? And I want to show you that. Can we do this stuff virtually, or is it in person? If you wanted to do some of this stuff virtually, this is one of the most interesting things that the pendulum routines allow you to do. And this is one of my absolute favorite things. So I'm going to share with you a couple of little things that the pendulum does in the box. And there's a reason, because it's something that you're asking, Joey. Everybody else has a pendulum. They let the spectator hold it and it just spins. What I find really interesting is, if you remember from my How to Control mindset, there's a routine where I knock somebody over. Well, I have an even more screwed on version of that, where one spectator can hold a pendulum, the second person's got their eyes closed. When this pendulum starts to swing backwards and forwards, this person starts to sway backwards and forwards. When this circles, this person starts to sway in a circle. And then the moment that somebody lets go of the pendulum, this person falls backwards into the arms of somebody there. This stuff also over FaceTime. Somebody calls one of their friends and they think of any object inside their house. They never tell you what it is. And the person on this side doesn't tell you what it is. you hold on to the pendulum, and they think about each room in the house and they imagine making the pendulum move. And on this side, the pendulum starts to swing. And when the pendulum starts to swing, you say, okay, go to that room, start naming objects. And you can deduce over FaceTime using the pendulum exactly what object they're thinking of inside their house, and it doesn't matter if it's 1,000 miles away. There's a use for the pendulum where you flip the pendulum upside down and you use the clip and you clip on a billet, and there's a table that are littered with random tented billets. They write their name on a billet, they peg it to the bottom of the pendulum, and they hover it over the top of each of the billets on the table, and it starts to spin over the top of one of them, and they lift it up, they open it out, and they manage to find their best friend or their partner's name amongst the rest of them. And when they all get opened up, you can see all the random names. And the beauty of that routine is you can be examined before and after, you start and end completely clean. It's just one of those beautiful little things. I talk about billet techniques. Now, this is something that's really important. Maybe you guys have not, but I always think it's a bit weird when I walk into a performance and I don't want to give out my business card. I don't want to use my business cards. I'm in a social setting with people I might not want to meet again. I don't want them to find me. So what I'll use is a blank billet. But I think it's a bit weird to walk up to somebody and go, here's this blank card that looks like a blank business card. Please write on it. So I've designed a pad that holds billets. It's almost like a 3D printed holder for blank billets where there's a band that goes across and you can pull them out one at a time. And on the front of it, it talks about a thick quality papered sketch pad. So now you're using this as your pad. You're using this as your crib sheet if you flip it over the other way around. And what I want to do, like I said earlier, the more people that back this, the more time I've got to invest into it. One thing that I want to do is I want to be able to improve the quality of that pad. And in there, I talk about how to use it as an out to lunch principle, how to insert in there an impromptu impression device built into the pad. But I'd love to find a way that I can take that to make it a permanent fixture. That's something else I'm looking at growing if more people get behind this. It's a community thing. The more of us that get behind it, you know, the more of it that's going to go crazy. Look at that. Sounds like it's going well, just having a cheeky beer in a magnet, like Uncle Neil and Dad. So that's Steve and Neil. I'll be down afterwards. I'm going to come and join you. But the pad is, you know, it's something else because it allows you to not have that guilt. And at the same time, it allows you to pull pages out and they make the noises they're coming out like you're picking them out. And you hand them to people, and all of a sudden, this is a pad now. It's not a weird blank piece of card that looks like nothing. It doesn't look like you're just handing this out, right? It doesn't look like that. It literally looks like a page coming out of a pad, and you don't need to feel the guilt of that anymore. You'll be able to capture impressions. You'll be able to do out to lunch principles. Mix that with a velvet bag that you're using as your tarot mat or your card mat, an impromptu one. It's also a switch device, is the bag. And the reason that's brilliant is because now you can get one ahead in a close-up Q&A where you say to somebody, okay, just drop it in there. And you go, in fact, you know what, take it back out and it's switched. Write your initials on them. Keep them folded on the table. In fact, we'll just do this open-handed. And now you've stolen out their billet. And if you don't want to use the box, you can use the little bag. If you don't want to use that little bag, I talk about how to do open-handed Q&A routines using the pad. And the pad becomes a switching device. So not only have you got a box that switches in and out billets, you've got a velvet bag that swaps in and out crystals. You've got a bag that swaps in and out papers and swaps in and out the billets. You can also use the billet pad, the notepad itself, to swap them in and out. So they're all little switch devices that all work in harmony with each other depending on what situation you're in. And one thing that I've really done, that's it. This would be a great traveling act. It is, right? I'm telling you, I traveled. I'm not just saying this, from one side of one coast to another and just use the stuff inside this box. And I swear to you, I don't even know, people are going to think I'm just saying it to hype this up. I'm not. Just by introducing those props, the reactions to what I'm doing took on a whole new feel. And afterwards, people were going, I appreciate you. No, thank you for touching people the way you do. And thank you for being you. Thank you for meeting me today. I just needed to know you. And when I'd sit there with these props, people are worried about going up to people. I literally have them on the table, and the amount of people in bars that just came over to me and were like, are you a sidekick? And I'm like, not really, but I'm just trying to grow my own tuition. Do you want to see something? And they'd be like, yeah. And they'd sit down, and it were a conversation starter without having to do, you know, absolutely anything, right? But that's what I'm saying. These props, like, and also with the filings inside the bottle. Another thing is that you can do like ashes on arm and stuff like that in close up. Do you know what I mean? There's loads of like little ideas that I've sprinkled in and out of there. And in fact, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but I sent Reese a message with the sheer amount of routines inside here, just so I had a track of them. And Reese's response were like, absolutely. I mean, me and Reese talk all the time, so it's probably going to be difficult to find it. But when I sent him the list of how many effects were inside the box, like, let me show you this. And there's not that much crossover. You can, if you want to replace the billets that are inside there with any ones you want, you can do that, Spencer. But I also will be providing later down the line, just the same as the 1914 did, billets. Because I found a brand that make them for me before they use them to print on. And it's a very difficult thing to explain, but it's, you know, it's incredible. So I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to see what you can see. But I was showing Reese this. This is the list of routines inside there. That's the pre-final list for the effects. And his response, Reese's response is, I'm not going to say it out loud, but this is the list. There's like a massive, massive list of them, of effects I've already filmed. All the video aspects of this are done. There's a beautiful piece inside there using emotions, which is a brilliant, I feel, a brilliant take on Out of This World that uses the pendulum. And the spectators are able to locate and get rid of negative emotions from positive emotions. There's a new way to do a centre tear, a brand new way to do a centre tear. And this were inspired by something that Sean McCarthy did years ago, but I've played with it and I've toyed with it. And the spectator is the one that does the centre tear for you, so you don't have to do it. There's an old reusing of Bert Reese's stuff. I thought, wait a minute, is there a way I can make the billets? You know, is there a way I can make the billets so that they switch themselves in and switch themselves out? Is there a way that I can do the wizard phone trick with tarot? Yes. Right. So, and where do the kits get shipped from? So, Stefan, that's another thing that we thought about. So I've always had a problem with posting out in America because of, obviously, like you just said, the shipping costs. The same if it's in America, we have problems in the UK, the same in Europe. So what I've done is I've got a friend in Europe that's going to have a number of the kits and they're going to ship from Europe. I've got Pig Cake in America that's dealing with the shipping from America, and I'm dealing with the shipping from the UK, which means that there'll be no import fees in the UK. There should be no import fees in America, and there should be no import fees in Europe. I'm trying to keep the costs down for you, and also it means that us together can make the best kit possible as a community. Is there a case for your tarot deck? And what about the cards themselves? Are they coated for added durability? So the cards are really, so this is the smooth finish, but I tried a smooth finish, and I don't know what the other deck is, but I tried a linen finish, and I actually preferred the linen finish, right? I preferred the linen finish, and they are, but one thing that's great, and I always say this, is with a deck of cards, JJ, what you want is you want to keep, so I don't know what's going to happen with Canada, but if we can find somebody in Canada that's going to help us with the shipping, we would happily give them a series of products and deal with it that way. So let me look into that, but the more time I take, you know, I'm going to try. So that's it. We're testing the finishes. We've got multiple finishes to try. But JJ, what people don't realize is that with playing cards, what you want is to keep them in a case so they don't look battered. That's the exact opposite of what you want with a tarot deck. You want the edges to look a little bit beaten. You want them to look a little bit aged. And you get the velvet bag, it goes inside the velvet bag, and they also fit neatly inside your notepad. So if you want to put them into the notepad with your billets, you can pull them out of there and that'll hold them like a card case, but you want them to look aged. You want them to look battered. And the reason for that is they have that feel about them like they've been used and they've been traveled and they've been messed with and touched, and the stories you can tell about them are much better, right? Yeah, like I swear to you, with this I've thought about everything. With the pendulums, I wanted the pendulums to work with the billets. I wanted the notepad to work with the switch device. I wanted the switch device to work with the crystals. I want each prop to work in harmony with each other. Oh yeah, so there we go. So the thought on the blindfold. So I talk about, so if you want to do a psychic routine, the beauty of being able to do some of the Q&A routines that I shared, you don't actually need to be able to see. So you could have somebody stand behind you and put their fingers over your eyes. I have talked about palm reading, and I also talked about impromptu blindfold effects. There's a full section on impromptu blindfold effects and sight unseen work, and also healing type stuff that's not really healing. It's more Banachek's witch doctor psychology type stuff. But that stuff, sure. You know, you can have somebody hold your fingers over it. I talk about a multitude of different routines where you are acting completely blind. A lot of routines where you're acting through a phone just using somebody's voice. Routines where people don't even speak. There's a routine on the set, which you'll have seen on my YouTube, where you sit in silence and you have a conversation without saying a word. And the amount of people I've seen without you saying a word just break down in tears. Now, I'm not saying that that's what you want, but they feel like they've got something off their chest without saying a word. It's a fully first silent Q&A that I've ever seen. And it's one of the most powerful things, you know, that I've ever created in my life. I put that on YouTube, and the entire community went wild about it. I'd say it's probably my most shared and talked about video in years, and I wanted to talk about that, the power of silence. But yeah, so there is a lot of blindfold stuff. There's a lot of palm reading stuff. There's a lot in there where I wanted the people to unlock their own intuition. The Kickstarter. Should we go live in a couple of minutes, Pigcake? I'll ask Pigcake. He's the man that's doing that, right? You don't need any effort. That's the beauty of it. So that silence routine, it makes them feel like, do you know, really ridiculously, I sat in front of somebody in West Yorkshire, and we were out at a bar, and I thought, you know what? I don't know what to do. This, like, you know, when you sit and you're sort of gauging a spectator, and this girl didn't seem to have the attention span for anything, right? So somebody were performing tricks around the bar, and she's like not really following instructions. And I sat down and I said to Pigcake, and he'll back me on this. Pigcake said, you know, just do a billet thing and then get out of there. And I said, you know what, let's try to go a little bit deeper with this. Let's try to connect, right? So we literally sat down and we did the power of silence. And when we sat down and we were looking, she literally just broke down and she said, that's the most incredible thing that I've ever experienced in my life. She said, that's the first time I've ever been able to sit in silence without fidgeting. And she thanked me, and she said, you answered my question and I heard the answer to it inside my own head. There were no bone conductors, there's no secret speakers, there's no laser speakers. It's just allowing people. Yeah, the sound of silence is great. You know, I would have called it that in homage to my late father. But yeah, so I think, so we'll split the difference. Pigcake's saying 10 minutes, everybody's saying now we'll go live in Pigcake's saying 20 minutes. People are saying now let's do 10 minutes. At 7:10, in 10 minutes time, we're going to go live. You'll be able to see the page. I want to stress this as well. There's one thing that's really important. So 2 questions have been asked that I think are really important. One of them is, when should shipping be expected? So we've not built the boxes yet. If I make funding, and I'm hoping that I do make funding, like I said, the more people that invest, there's not a tier system where you have to spend more to get better. You'd have to spend more to get better. It's just the more backers, the more time I have to invest in this. And I'm going to literally try to travel and document my travel to these places. I'm going to try to travel over there, and the quality of the videos, I mean, I don't know. Let me peel this off so I can give you a look. I don't want you to see this screensaver whilst you're looking at this. Get rid of that. Let me show you this. I want to share with you just how good the quality is of the videos. Just 30 seconds of the footage, and we've done a full documentary as well, which is on there that you get for free. Everybody was saying, oh, you know, upsell it, do this. I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to give everything that I've got, and I wanted to share it. So I'm going to play it on my phone. It's probably not the best medium to do this, but it'll give you an insight. Just 30 seconds of this, so you can see just how it looks like Netflix. The documentary itself. That's if it loads. But you can see how excited I am. Do you know what I mean? I'm not normally. I've never done a launch like this for anything else. Never spent any time talking about any of this stuff, and it's not because of anything else other than the fact I've literally put everything into this. Everything that I've got, everything that I think about, all my interesting, quirky concepts, connecting with people. There we go. So I'm going to turn this on its side. Look at the production on this. I hope you can see it. So let me try not to make it glare, but the production on this. I don't know how much you can see, but So this is the start of the documentary, and you just see we've lit it so beautifully, we've cut it so beautifully, we've let the behind the scenes in, and it might look a little bit darker because.
Just give me a 3, 2, and then I'll bring us in. 3, 2. Welcome to the documentary section on this set. This documentary for me is one of the pinnacle moments in my life, because I never thought I'd be sat in this chair making this documentary. And the last few weeks have been a dream come true for me, and I'm sure if you ask Pig Cake, his experience is probably going to be very different to mine.
And I'll leave it there just as he's asleep. But we literally made a full documentary, and it's not going to be like How to Control Minds. I heard your complaints on How to Control Minds, that you didn't like the documentary format. I've cut it out. What I've done is I've added an extra documentary that gives you a behind the scenes where we share with you the advice. It shares tricks and tips. So we like, oh, I don't know how much you could see there, but in person it looks so good. We spent so much time doing it, and on this trip we broke into secret societies in Sedona. Like it were unreal. Like the trip were just something else. Like it were unbelievable. And the camera broke in like the back half of the trip, and I'm literally in the back of an RV at a Home Depot with a soldering iron, and you see me fix this PCB board. We documented everything. We got stuck in the desert, and the wheels were just spinning. Yeah, like we were doing 22-hour days editing it, right? So yeah, so the Dice Man were great. The problem is that the routines were baked into the Dice Man, so you had to watch the Dice Man to get to the routines and the tricks. This also has tricks and tips in it, but not the ones that are in the set. So the ones that are in the set are literally, here's the effect, here's, you know, the performance of it, here's the explanation, here are some of the studio performances, here's the explanations, so that you can get all of that stuff quickly and easily and jump to where you need to jump to. And I thought about it. I didn't want to send out a little USB stick. I didn't want to send out a USB stick. I didn't want to send out one of those like keys that they plug in, or cable, or USB. So what I've made is the Psychic Survival Guide, and that's a book. And this book opens and you read 80s style, like the VHS stuff, 80s style catalogs. So you read like a catalog for it. So you know how the old catalogs would explain the X-ray glasses. And then at the bottom of that, there's a QR code, and then there's the link. And the first page contains every single effect and every single routine. So if you just want to watch them, you can do. If you want to read the extra ideas and the added subtleties inside the Psychic Survival Guide, you can. If you want to jump to a specific page and go through it page by page like you're reading a book, you can read about the effect, you can scan it, you can watch the effect and then learn it, and then move on to the next page. And you can also take the extra cards that are in there. There's a series of gimmicked cards, and I won't go into that just yet, but you can take them and you can use them as the bookmarks if you want, right? So it's, yeah, so we thought about everything, like, yeah, like it, and Pig Cake has formatted it after the worst case scenario books. So do we get behind the scenes of how much, there's a full behind the scenes. Honestly, that documentary is, you see Pig Cake in the RV whilst it's driving, trying to make me cups of tea whilst the RV's rocking backwards and forwards, which is, you know, it's an hilarious documentary. There's a lot in there. You also get to see me pick Pig Cake up and throw him like a piece of paper over the creative differences of us filming and spinning around like a wrestler and then throwing me. Loved it. So yeah, like, honestly. So then this is going to be launching in 6 minutes, Michael. So that's that. But we're trying our best. We're doing our best. So live in 5 minutes, everybody. 5 minutes. If you've got any more questions, feel free to ask me now. It's gonna, yeah, like, listen, Hungry and Hungover, he couldn't direct anything. You should see his videos. We had a creative discussion today about his filmmaking, and he's gonna come back in the comments. I can hear him there without even seeing him. I can hear him going, "Oh right," that little thing that he does in his room. Oh, but yeah. So that's it. So there's so much in there. There's billet routines, there's billet work, there's work with a billet pad, there's work with a notepad, there's the switch bag and loads of routines with that, how you can use the pendulum with that, how you can use the notepad with that, how you can use the crystals with that. There's crystal routines on their own, there's tarot card routines on their own. There's one routine where somebody literally shuffles a tarot deck, you give them a reading and you say, you know what's really interesting? There's an expression that I always found really funny when it comes to tarot, and it's that the person doesn't find the card finds the person. So if that were the case, let me give you a reading. And when I give you a reading, I want you just to take out the card that you feel guided to. And there's no force whatsoever. You start to give them a reading about fate, and you start to give them a reading about about gaining fortune and how the fortune's in their near future. It's a really beautiful reading. You'd have to watch the performance of it. But then they take a card out and put it down. They turn it round, and it's the Wheel of Fortune, right? Oh, do you know what I'm feeling right now? I'm excited. The reason that I'm so excited is because this has taken up months and months of my time. And whilst I was working on a production last year that were like a massive production, we're talking in the millions, and all I could think about that entire time were coming and doing this. And I got offered, and Pigcake will tell you this, after February, I got offered to go and work on another production that were like that, and I turned it down. And I was like, no, I've just got to, this is something yearning inside me, and I've got to get it out. Intuitively, I shared it. And if you can hear like a whirring noise, that's the fan behind me. But so Matt Dean won't be able to pick this up for a couple of weeks. Will it be up that long? Matt, do you know what's really interesting? We thought about this. This is another thing. These other Kickstarters that you sign up to, they expect the money right away. You don't have to pay right out the gate. We've actually managed to find I don't know what it is, some system on there that allows you to take payments, and you can continue paying outside of the campaign, right? The campaign's 30 days long. But we found ways to make it so you can pay in installments, right? And that's something that's, for me, especially, I know exactly what it's like when you're having to break your back to work and there's other things to pay for. And I thought about that. So not only did I set it so that we can make payments, I set it so that you can make payments even after the campaign ends. So all you got to do is grab one. I don't know how you fill it all out. I've never done Kickstarter before. I don't really know much about it. There's cold reading on there. There's warm reading and hot reading. And there's also ways where you can get the spectator to give you information they don't know they're giving you by answering in the inverse. So there's inverse readings, which is something I've never seen before. And these techniques, there's a lot. When I say I've done a deep dive on this stuff, I mean I've done a deep dive. We went and we convinced faith healers. We convinced real psychics that we were the real deal. And we didn't even have to try. And what were brilliant about that is I said to Pigcake, there's one way we can know if they're psychic. And he said, how's that? He said, if we tell them we're a psychic, or they say we're a psychic and they believe it, we know they're not psychic. And that was the barometer of the little tests that we made in Sedona, in New Orleans, and other things. So, Dan, I talked to Lewis. There's a thing called Behind the Veil, or Beyond the Veil. I can't remember which it is. Pigcake decided what it was going to be called. I think it's Beyond the Veil. And on that, I discuss with people like Lewis Laval. There's a few other people that make little cameos on there that are well known in the industry. I'm not going to ruin any secrets. And I also managed to get a veteran out of retirement, somebody that's not made a book for 10 years, that disappeared off the scene, who people haven't been able to get hold of, who was, I'd say, arguably at the time, the most famous psychic mentalist in the world. And I've managed to get them to come out of retirement into an interview and to share some stuff. So, I'm pulling all the strings. Like, I'm doing what I can to make this the biggest and the best it could be. And to answer the question about the videos, it's big, but it's not overwhelming. So the problem with a lot of projects is you think you have to, learn a lot. You think you have to know a lot. In this, choose what you want. And you can learn what you want. And even one thing will blow them away. You don't even have to work. The props do it. So, Phil, so how long till we can receive it, all going well? So my aim, and I'm going to state this now, it's my aim, is to make sure this is with you for Christmas. That's my aim. That includes me going. That includes this 30-day Kickstarter. It includes me going and traveling and actually looking. These people that have done these kits before, they don't look at what's being produced. Do you know what? Maybe Geller. I can't confirm or deny that, but somebody else as well. So Geller, I know pretty well. I know Geller pretty well, and I can say with a little bit of confidence, I don't think it'd take too much work for me to. I don't think it'd take too much work for me to get Geller to do an interview. But so I think it'll come for Christmas. That's my aim, right? So I think it's going live now. I think it's over there now. Can we put the link in the description? We shall go live. Go look at how fancy the Kickstarter page is, and that's all down to our boy Piggy. I'd never be able to do all like that. But yeah, where are we? Can we have the link, Pig Cake? And just put it in the comments. So we're live now, I think. Are we live, Pig Cake? Give us some confirmation. I'll just sit and enjoy my cup of tea. So my aim's to get it done for Christmas. We will be updating everybody with our process. Also, like I said, Lance, I've done I've done 99% of the videos. So the link is pinned at the top. I've done 99% of the videos. But like I said earlier, the more people that back this as a community, the more time I've got to invest into doing it. And I obsess over these things. So every single shipped worldwide, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. And also, like I said earlier, we've tried to mitigate the import fees by having somebody ship in Germany, or ship in Europe, sorry, have somebody ship in America and have somebody ship in England so that we're posting and there's no import fees. That's the aim, right? And all of these things, I thought about every angle. I thought about every problem I've ever had with every Kickstarter. I've listened to everything that everybody said with the previous Kickstarters. And there's only certain times where I've not compromised on certain things when it affects my artistic vision. But I'm telling you, go over there, go look at it. It's live now. I haven't even seen the page myself, so let me click it. Let me see what's going on. Where are we? There we go. We're rocking. We've got 4 backers already. That's the way to go. I mean, I don't know. There we are. Look at this. Right. So, like I say, this is, you know, I'm not just saying it. Genuinely from the bottom of my heart. This is the biggest thing that I've ever done. It's the. Am I still live, Pig Cake? I mean, I don't know. I check. Are my comments still there? Have I killed the live? Just give me 1 second. Oh, there we are. I am still live, but I can't see myself. Yeah. Okay, I'm taking technical calls from my my guru in Orlando, my advisor. Here we go. There's the chat. There it is. Right, I'm gonna go. Bye. See that I'm not technically gifted, and that's why I've got to have somebody in Orlando that's doing the back end for me. But yeah, there we go. Look, oh, if you get the early bird price as well, you know, if you get the early bird price, it's cheaper now. The breakdown of tiers. So I don't know if there's any tiers that are on there. So the way that we sort of want to deal with this time, instead of having tier systems where you pay more, you get this extra prop. If 10 people back, you'll get this. We don't want that. What I want to do is the more people that back, the more time that I've got to invest into this. If I'm going to travel, I'm going to travel to these places and actually look at the development of this stuff. My aim is to go document it, capture it, film it, and bring it back. This is us as a community designing our box the way that we want it. Right, so if you've ever loved anything that I've done, this is the time now to back it, and this is the time to, this is the time to grab hold of it. But let's see how we're going. Again, still don't really know what I'm doing with the Kickstarter and stuff, but I'm trying my best. So let's have a look at this. So, is there any more questions? We're at 1914 exactly. I don't know if that's. So that's a great question. Is there any overlaps with your old projects? So there's very minimal overlap. I've never done anything with crystals before. I've never done anything with switchbacks before. I've never done anything with tarot cards before. Although I do talk about, for example, 21 and I use that as an example, an old card thing that I did, but how you can do this with tarot cards and add one extra element that were never described before. If there's anything that I've ever done before or anything that I've ever talked about before, then I've added to it. So apparently the Kickstarter link is down. I don't know what that means. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, 50%. Out, like mind blown, right? So there's very little crossover, and also, like, for example, in the How to Control Minds kit, I talked about a hand stick. In this, I talk about a crystal, right? I talk about a crystal and how you can make it so that it's 99% going to stick in their hand every time, using techniques that I have shared in the past, but brand new applications. Now, in terms of the tarot stuff, never talked about before. In terms of crystal stuff, never talked about before. Pendulum stuff, never talked about before. In terms of the reading system, never been done before. Nobody's ever thought about a marking system on the back of the cards like that. Look at the marking system. The mobile phone will tell you what card they're holding without having to turn it round, and it will give you an in-depth reading to be able to give them with nothing, right? So for me, I'm like, honestly, I swear, it's literally blown my mind how much this has all come together. Like, and thank you for everybody that's pledged already. Look at that. Like, within 6 minutes, we're already up at over £6,000. It's like, honestly, I swear and I promise you this, like, this means the world to me. Like, also, let's talk about the let's talk about the add-ons, right? So the add-ons are important. So the Cold Reader's Companion. What is a Cold Reader's Companion? Well, if you've ever wanted to learn to cold read, this is a book that teaches you how to do that. If you don't want to take out billets, if you don't want to take out props, if you don't want to take out your mobile phone, if you were ever caught anywhere in the world with nothing but your voice, this will allow you to perform the most beautiful Q&A without having to have billets, the most beautiful readings without having to think, and also be able to give answers where you're not really saying anything, but they feel you are, and they will give you 100% the credit that you need to be able to do it, right? So for me, like, yeah, look at this, 75% of the way there already. But look, listen, everybody, if this funds whilst I'm on this live, I will literally make a promise that I will add one routine in there that I've never shared. And I swear to you, every single person that I've ever consulted for has begged me for this routine, and it is of this ilk, and I've never ever talked about it or shared it with anybody. In fact, I tell a lie, the only person that I shared this with was Burglass. And that's it. And that we're at a service station. After a service station, we caught up on the telephone. We met in a service station. We caught up on the telephone, and I shared it with him. So the add-ons on the project. So the add-ons are part of the project. So if you back the add-ons are like the Cold Reader's Companion. You'll get that with your box. If you get the Cold Reader's Companion and Beyond the Veil features artists. Like I said, one of them is arguably the most famous psychic mentalist of all time. Arguably the most famous psychic mentalist of all time, and they're going to come out of retirement and they're going to do an interview. I know that because I've talked to them. I can't say who it is, but as soon as you see this person, you'll be like, there's no way that you got an hour interview with that person. I also got talks, and I know Lewis will do this for me. I know Lewis Laval's going to do this for me. I know everybody else is going to do this for me. So there you go. So David's put, no details needed. The Grail is one of the best projects that ever existed. So the Grail, let me talk to you about the Grail. If you don't know what it is, the Grail were my insight into propless mentalism. Now, I did PK mentalism and I did a book on it. And so PK mentalism is like where you'll touch one person at one side of the room and somebody at the other side of the room will feel it. And I put a load of artists together and I created what is, and it definitely is, the largest book on the subject in the world. There's nobody else that's there's nobody else that's created a book that big, and that's not me trying to boast or anything. It was just that with the aim. The Grail is how to do propless mentalism with nothing in your pockets, real mind reading and real mentalism with nothing. So you walk into a scenario, you ask somebody to think of a word, you ask somebody to think of a phrase, you ask somebody to think of a drawing, you ask somebody to think of anything, and you can guess it, and it's hours and hours and hours. The Grail was the complete package at Blackpool. So the Grail is one of the pieces. The Grail is one of the pieces inside that complete package. And it's hours and hours. And there's people on there like Joshua Quinn. Joshua Quinn shares with us an interview and also shares his propless routines. And then I talk about those in depth. We've got Rhys Goodley who give us 5 PDFs, and I do an interview with Rhys Goodley. Lewis Laval, he came on there. We did a 2-hour-long interview or a 3-hour-long interview, and then he gave me one of his PDFs, right? But yeah, the walls, after seeing both your lectures in Blackpool and getting to meet you, backing this is the least I could do. Do you know what? Honestly, guys, this is the greatest day for me in my career so far. Being able to do this. Because doing it with these other companies, it's not being done my way, right? It's not being done my way. But there is a tier that's in there just in case you already have the Grail, so you don't need to get it. But The Grail is the ultimate toolbox for a mentalist, the ultimate toolbox for mentalists if you want to go out there and do what you say you're doing. If you want to be able to implant an image in somebody's head, you'll be able to do it. If you want to guess what somebody's thinking, you'll be able to do it. If you want to guess words, numbers, pictures, images, and it's easy, right? But that's it. And don't worry about the shipping. Like I say, what we're going to aim to do, there we go. I think we've just done it. I think we've just reached, we funded. Think about that. We funded. Look at that. Somebody's just said, I've never seen a Kickstarter fulfill its goals so quickly. We've funded. There we go. Blown away. I want to curse. We're blown away. Ah, there we go. We've done it. How good does that feel to know that we've done this? Goal reached in 10 minutes. No major companies backing us. We've not marketed this on Facebook. We've not done Facebook ads. We've not done any of that stuff. You'll notice I've not posted the trailer on my Facebook. We've got no magic companies that are helping us with this. It is just us lot together that have done this. This is mind-blowing. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. God, you're on this trip with me. I'll tell you what. I promise you over the next few weeks, you're going to see that number go up. And when that goes up, I'm going to be personally updating all of you. Thank you, everybody, for everything. There we go. Look at that. Blown away. Absolutely blown away. We did it, Pig Cake. We did it. It's going to happen, guys, now. That's it. There's no turning back. There's no turning back whatsoever. Look at these comments. I can't believe how thick and fast they're coming in. Do you know what? My value in this community is only driven by you guys, and I want to thank you all for being a part of my story. I'm telling you that none of this I thought were possible, and I'm not just saying this. From living in a 2-bedroom flat in a ghetto or a council estate, making magic tricks whilst I stayed in there with like 2 or 3 other family members and another family members in another room, being homeless at 15, and then traveling the world and doing this. And this is all down to you guys. It's not down to me. And I promise you one thing, that I'll keep doing this for you guys. I'm going to keep doing this. And there's the haters can hate, but we're doing it. We're winning. Do you know what I mean? We're doing it. So yeah, thank you for everything. Do you know what? Wow, we've done it. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Pig Cake. See? This is why hard work and perseverance pays off, Pig Cake. You've learned a lesson this time. No, I'm thankful for you guys. Yeah, I know. Do you know what I mean? Like, look, honestly, but literally blown away. Do you know, Hungry and Hungover, if somebody wants to go make a word or post out on the cafe, please go and do it. I've tended to avoid that place for a little bit because, you know, I just don't want to get into the backwards and forwards of stuff, you know. There we go. Back to, like, I love you guys. And Phil, I had such a good time with you at Blackpool. You know that. And, you know, that video that we created were great. Now, you know, now time for the pint. I think it is soon. I started my mentalism journey with how to read minds. Now I've transitioned to esoteric mentalism, and as a tarot reader, this kit will help me so much. Thank you, guys. Well, listen, I'm going to do another 2 minutes, and then I'm going to jump out because I am going to go have a celebratory beer down at the Magnet. If anybody's in West Yorkshire and you fancy joining me, that's where we're going to be. And I'm going to see you all soon. I swear, like, I'm going to do my best to get over to Magic Live. So if there's some of you in Vegas and you want to catch me for a drink, you know, I'm going to be over there. Daniel, I want to interview you about your job. I've heard that you've got some pretty interesting stories. So let's do it. I'm going to go over to I'm going to go over to Vegas, and then from Vegas I'm probably going to travel to California, and then from California I think I'm going to fly over to Miami. Joshua, we are going to celebrate in Vegas. Do you know what? If it's not 5 o'clock in the morning and we're still getting drunk eating pancakes, then it's not a celebration. So, you know, and everybody who came to Blackpool and saw me at Blackpool and came to my lecture, thank you for that. Thank you for tuning into these videos. Honestly, I genuinely am blown away. We did it. We did it together. So, right. I don't know how to, I don't even know how to stop the live now. I'm so blown away by everything that's going on, overwhelmed by it. I don't even know where the YouTube is. How do I open the YouTube Pig Cake to shut it down? Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Tim, I'll keep you up to date when I'm in California. I won't be over there. Right? How do it, like, Big Cake, how do I shut my live stream down? Do I just click stop on OBS? Will that do it? See you in Vegas, David. Joshua, why do you come down to Orlando? Or why don't we meet in the middle? Why don't we meet in the middle over in Miami, or we meet in Orlando? We'll meet in Orlando. Right, guys, I shall see you soon. Take care.